Hey guys, this is Will with the Weathered Souls. I thought I'd do a little bit of a mini rig rundown of my amp and my pedal board today. So, for those who don't know, I am in a cover band called the Weathered Souls, and we play out. So we play at bars and at parties, and I've got all this stuff that I'm hauling to rehearsal, usually once a week or so. So I thought I'd go through a little bit of how I use these things and what sort of tones I get out of them with my different pedals. We play, classic rock to modern rock, so, rock of all sorts. And I don't try and do sound-alike tones for the most part. I have some bass tones where I try and get kind of in the ballpark of what the original song sounded like, but I don't try and crib everything too exactly. I prefer to use analog pedals rather than a modeler or something like that, so getting everything spot on is probably more trouble than it's worth, so this is the way I do it. As you can see right here, here's the guitar and the amp I'll be using today. The guitar is my 96 American Standard Strat. It's been modified quite a bit. I turned it from, it was an SSS originally. I put the humbucker in the bridge and played around with the wiring a bit too. The middle and neck pickups are the original standard, American Standard pickups. The bridge is a Seymour Duncan 59. I've turned the back tone knob into a blender so you can blend in the middle or the neck, the neck or the bridge pickup. And then the little mini switch I installed can partially split the bridge pickup. So if you want to get, pseudo single coil tones, it does that pretty well. I bought this guitar new. This was my first electric that I got back in 1996. So it's been with me for a long time. I love it. Sounds great. I don't play it as much as some of my other ones when we're playing out or rehearsal, just because it's pretty heavy for a Strat, and it gets a bit uncomfortable when you're there for 4 hours or so with a thing on your shoulder. So the amp you're seeing is my Friedman Runt 50 head, and I have the 2x12 cab. This generally stays at home unless we're playing like a bigger outdoor gig. Sometimes I'll bring it for things like that. But I have an Avatar 1x12 that I leave over at our rehearsal space and that I bring to most of our smaller indoor gigs. Vintage 30s in both of those. The Runt head I really love. I love that modded Marshall tone. It's also got a great clean channel as well, which is it's actually modeled after a Fender Blackface style clean, so it takes pedals really well. Most of the time I'm on the dirt channel with this, and I use my guitar volume to adjust the gain up or down. But if I need different kind of tones, I do that with my pedal board. So I'm going to grab the guitar now, kind of show you the bass tones I get from this. So I'm on the dirt channel right now, and here's what I get. So I love that tone. I'm pretty happy with that for most of what I do. All of the harder rock stuff, and if I need to get more gain, I hit it with a boost. If I need to get less gain, I can do that in a few ways. So this guitar especially actually rolls off really well. So I can go from this, and if I just pull the volume back on the humbucker on the bridge, it doesn't clean up exactly, but I could also split it. Can actually get fairly clean. If you go to one of the single coils, same thing, full on. Then you can roll it back. If you split it, it gets even cleaner. So you get a lot of mileage out of that stuff. For anything beyond that, I go to my pedal board for some different options. So I'll kind of show you what I have laid out there. Let's see if I can adjust this and get a good view of the board. So there is my pedal board. This is made to be reliable, versatile, and easy to transport. I would love to have a pedal board with like a million different pedals, but because I pick this up and move it all the time, I wanted something that was light enough to not be a huge pain in the butt. So some of what I do here is based off of my dirt channel and boosting or shaping that, but then I also have the clean channel of the amp. So I actually, on the left-hand side there, you see the channel switcher for the amp itself. So if I want to, I could just pop it on here, and I actually just Velcro that on, and it goes to my amp via Snake. So I have my my input cord along with the send and return cords for the effects loop, and then also the cord for my channel switch that all go, you can see it in the back there in the upper left coming out. They all go in a Snake to the amp. So it's all, easy to just pick up and throw in a container and go all at once. So here's my clean tone for the amp. Pretty basic, but I like it a lot. So my signal chain starts up here with the Boss Wireless. This is the WL50 system. I love it. It's just super simple. You can plug in the wireless transmitter, which looks like this. You plug it in there, it charges up. So the whole thing is, it's a rechargeable battery. You never have to worry about double A's. The coverage is really good. I have cutouts in my office here a little bit just because it works on the same frequencies as a wireless Wi-Fi system. And I happen to have this thing kind of in between where my computer lives and my router. So when I play out or at our rehearsal space, I've never had an issue with it dropping at all. So I like it a lot. So my signal chain goes from there to my tuner, which is right next to it. And that is a Korg Pitch Black. I've used a Polytune also in the past, which I like both of them. I think they work equally well. But the thing with the Polytune, it's slightly bigger, and I feel like the screen on this one is a little bit better. You get a nice bright display that you can see easily outside too, which is nice when you have an outdoor gig. So it's nice and bright. Tunes the guitar. Not much said from there. So from there, my routing goes down to the bottom, down here, and this is a Wilson Effects mini wah. I love the Dunlop mini wah just because it fits on the bottom row of a pedal board so well. However, I had one too many times where I thought I had turned it off and didn't, and because it doesn't have an LED, I ended up starting the next song and then wondering what the heck was going on because my wah was actually turned on and half cocked. So this thing has a nice bright blue LED, which you can see there to the side, and there's never a question. So since I've gotten this, I've never run into another situation where I had this thing on or off and thought it was the other way. So it's also adjustable, which makes it nice. You can kind of tweak the tones. I find that especially useful with gain tones. You can kind of thin it out a little bit so it, it doesn't get so bloated when you roll to the low end. From there, I'm going into this guy, which is a pedal that I built myself. I learned a few years ago to build pedals. I'm not super sophisticated at it, but I just do the, buy a PCB and drill out the enclosure. So this is a clone, kind of a modified clone of a Keeley compressor. It has an attack switch and a treble switch, so you can, kind of bring back some of that sparkliness that you lose sometimes with the compressor. I don't use it a ton, but what I have found is, when I'm playing clean in a mix, which isn't all that often, it is nice to have a compressor because it kind of just evens everything out. You don't run into situations where you're feeling like you got a hammer on the strings to be heard through the mix. It just brings it all up for you. So from there, the signal runs next into the J-Rocket Archer, the Silver Archer, which is also on the bottom row. I've arranged these not by signal path necessarily as far as layout on the board, but more by how often I use them and if I need to step on them in the heat of battle. So the things I use most often, like my boosts, I have on the bottom row so I can hit them in the middle of a song. The J-Rocket Archer I use with the gain fairly low. I use it mostly as a boost for my dirt stuff. It has a huge volume jump if I'm playing clean, so it's a little intense, but when you're playing with dirt, it just fattens it up really nicely. So, the way I use that most of the time is I can go from this, then hit it with the Archer. It just really thickens it up and fattens it up, and it gives it a nice sparkle, too, that helps it cut through a little bit in the mix better. I don't use that as my solo boost just because when you're hitting a dirty amp from the front end like that, it really doesn't raise the volume any. It saturates it up more and gives it more gain. So for songs where I need that, that's the direction I go. And I actually use the TC Spark in the effects loop when I need a straight up volume boost. And I'll get to that in a couple minutes. So I run into the compressor first because I don't like compressor after dirt. So that comes first in the chain right after the wah. Then I go to the Archer so I can boost everything that comes after that if I want to. And then from there, it actually moves up to the top row to the K-Line Blue Sky, which is, I've been told it's kind of a Timmy clone. I don't know. I mean, the knobs don't work the same way, so I don't know about that. But I use that as kind of a like Fendery style edge of breakup. So I generally just use that on the clean setting. So it's just a nice, warms it up a little bit, still stays sparkly though, and just gives it a hair of dirt, which is nice for a lot of the songs we play. I as I've said before, I tend to not play totally clean very often at all. Usually if I'm on a clean tone, if I need something totally clean, I'll use the compressor. A lot of the things that are, in the rock vein sound better with just a hair of dirt. So this sounds fairly clean in a mix, but it just gives it a little bit of compression, a little bit of warmth that goes a long way. So from there, I go into the Carcosa Fuzz. I'm not a fuzz guy, but I like this one a lot. It does a great job of kind of splitting the difference between like a muff style fuzz and a traditional fuzz face. I don't use it on a lot of songs. Like I got it on the board because we do Lonely Boy by the Black Keys and I needed something fuzzy, but it's really versatile. I mean the knobs, I'm not going to get into to knob turning in this video, but the knobs are super powerful. You can go from really a screaming bright kind of sound to a big fat warm one and everything in between, including kind of like a glitched out fuzz tone. So I generally do this as a set it and forget it. For me, somebody who's not a fuzz guy, it's like a great intro fuzz pedal. It does a lot of stuff. You can dial in a lot of different tones, and it has enough in the mids and upper mids that you can still be heard in a mix. I love the sound of a big muff, but like they're so hard to use in a band live. You just disappear in the mix. And we have a keyboard player as well who's taking up a lot of that low-end sonic space. So, having a gigantic wall of fuzz sound is not what we need. So here's what I get with this. If you hit it with the humbuckers, it really does brighten right up. It also cleans up really well, especially with the single coils. You can get some cool tones. So roll the volume back. So you can do a lot with it. I don't do near as much as you probably can, but cool pedal nonetheless. From there, I come back down to the bottom, and that is a clone of a King of Tone that I built. That's one of my go-to pedals. I tend to run it right-hand side as a boost, left-hand side as a light overdrive. It's similar in tone to a Marshall-style overdrive, so it sounds quite a bit different from the K-Line in the top row. If I want something lower gain, I can do that on the clean channel instead of using my Friedman dirt. Then if I kick in the boost in front of that, so it's really versatile, works really well with this amp, and I love it. The boost itself too, I sometimes use interchangeably with using that instead of the Archer. I find with single coils, I like it a little bit better. So if I'm on my neck pickup with the Strat, here's my dirt channel. If I hit it with the Archer, it really boosts the upper mids. You can hear some of that brightness come out. If I hit it with the King of Tone instead, it kind of fattens it up a little bit. It's more MIDI, especially in the lower mids. I like it especially with the Telly bridge pickup. That fatness is a big help. So that is the end of my dirt section. Obviously, I have quite a few on my board. From the King of Tone, it goes into the front of the amp, and then the rest of the stuff I have on here is in the loop. So from there, it comes back out of the loop into the chorus and the top. This is nice. I kind of have it set up as a, moderate chorus. It's not crazy, but it's not super, inconspicuous either. It gives a nice, when you have something like an 80s chorus that you need, pop that on. Like it with the compressor too. Whoops. Don't need the dirt. So I wanted an analog chorus. I didn't go through a ton of them. I found this. I know MXRs are relatively cheap and available and reliable, and for what I do, it tends to work great. So from there, I go into the Obscura delay. I used to run a TC flashback, and I found that I didn't use all the settings all that often. I wasn't changing to a million different types of delay, so I ended up getting this to try it out, and I just like the bass delay tones quite a bit better. Really, really like it. It's a cool delay. I use the lo-fi mode most often, and it does a good job of sitting in the mix and not overwhelming things while still being apparent. So I really like it. I'll use it on solo sometimes. We have a couple songs, like we play I Ran by Flock of Seagulls, which needs a delay tone along with the chorus, and it does a good job for that as well. From there, I go into the RV6 Boss. Everyone's got to have a Boss pedal on the board, right? So I have that up here in the upper left. That is pretty much a set it and forget it. My amp doesn't have reverb, so I don't like to swim in reverb, but I don't like it to be totally dry either. So I got that one, put it on my board, messed with it for a little bit, found a setting I liked, and leave it. I tend to use the plate setting on there. I found that sounds the best with gain. I think, the spring and the hall are really good for cleaner stuff. If I played cleaner more often, I'd probably do something like that. But for dirt tones, it works great. It sits there really nicely. It's not super overwhelming. From there, I go down into the bottom row, and the last thing in the loop is my TC Spark. So putting that after the dirt section of the amp means I can get a big volume boost when I want. I have it set up to cut a little bit of bass and treble, but mostly it just gets louder. That's, when you're playing live in a mix and you want your solo to stand out, that's what you need. So, I've heard some good advice that when you play a solo, you want your guitar volume to be roughly the same as what the vocals were at. So it does require quite a bit of boost, and when you're playing dirty, as I said before, you can't hit the front of the amp with anything more. It's just not going to get any louder. So you need something in the loop if you want to increase volume. So it does thusly. Honestly, it's not the prettiest sound. I like the tone better straight up without it, with a little bit more bass and a little bit more treble. But just cutting both of those back a little bit makes it a little bit honkier, and it cuts through the mix live really well. And for somebody like me who does play out quite a bit, like that's how I have my rig set up. You know, I want tones that can be heard in a band mix. You know, that generally means it's fairly bright, and I run a lot of mids, and that's the kind of thing that I go for and works for me. So this is it. This is what a pedal board looks like for somebody who's playing in a, you know, a gigging cover band. Covers a lot of needs for me, you know, in the rock world, and most importantly, it's reliable and portable. So hope this was interesting, guys. And, you know, let me know in the comments if you want to see anything similar to this. I'll go through my guitars in a different video at some point. But yeah, this is the gear. Thanks a lot.